back of your mind that this could be it for Caitlyn at Payback in Chicago. And Chicago, with how controversial that city has been, with its track record really not being that hot for both hometown favorites and WWE superstars in general. I remember WrestleMania 13 and how controversial that one was with Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart, which was really the heel turn of Bret Hart when everyone favored Stone Cold Steve Austin. CM Punk, of course, and Chris Jericho's match from 2012's Extreme Rules, very controversial. The fan support was divided equally down the middle. So with how track records have fared for WWE superstars who have had the privilege of competing in Chicago and other places like Philadelphia, I really don't see Caitlyn coming away with the victory. I see this being a huge opportunity for WWE to send the Divas division in an entirely different direction, and it will benefit it because we have this new reality series featuring the Divas coming to the E! Network this summer, which will increase the ratings. I'm looking forward to the piece WWE have put together on AJ, who is certainly one of their top 5 divas, if not the top diva in the division, along with all the other diva pieces that have been put together for Total Diva. The Bella Twins are going to be a big part of that. I think another difficult thing about AJ being the Divas champion and why it's been prolonged is because the creative team are trying to come up with feuds for AJ to be in as your defending champion. It's been said many times over the years that keeping a championship is more harder than actually acquiring a championship, and with the limited amount of talent that you have for AJ to feud with and who AJ can actually work with and make it actually work entirely for the Divas division, that's going to be a real challenge. So I see her reign being prolonged anywhere from 6 to 8 months because of the limited amount of competition. This then opens the door for some of the divas from the NXT on WWE.com every Wednesday, like Paige, Audrey, and Sasha Banks, to come over from NXT to appear on Raw and SmackDown for the first time. They have something going for Summer Rae as a valet dance partner of Fandango, but with his injury now, the most exposure Summer Rae is going to get is on NXT as she looks to improve her in-ring skills. When she gets good enough, she's going to be called up permanently to Raw and SmackDown to compete in the Divas division, which is one division for both shows. I'm hoping to see Paige get a call up to WWE's Raw or SmackDown over from NXT with how incredible she's been in feuds with the likes of Summer Rae, and Sasha Banks, who is the assistant to the NXT general manager Dusty Rhodes, as he works diligently to bring you a good wrestling quality show every Wednesday on WWE.com, is very effective as well. These divas have effective characters that can be utilized in the division, and with the limited amount of talent that you have for the division on Raw and SmackDown, you can only rely on certain divas like AJ and Caitlyn all the time. It opens up the door and opens it widely for some of the NXT divas who are featured on one of the biggest rosters since the inception of the show. This roster can go a long way, especially when it comes to female talent, and there are females on NXT, just to put it into perspective for you very briefly, that are as equally as impressive as the male roster, which certainly dominates the show without question. But you look at the females and how far they have come since premiering on the show. You look at Summer Rae transitioning from a ring announcer into a in-ring competitor, which is something that takes a diva years to do so quickly. I mean, Candice Michelle is the perfect example I can use for you. Candice Michelle told somebody on WWE.com to bite this a few years ago that she would never wrestle, but you couldn't really count her out of never wrestling because Candice Michelle might make a decision to wrestle. And a few years after she said that, I think it was actually in the same year she started wrestling, and she got so good as an in-ring competitor, WWE ultimately made the decision to have her represent the Divas division as the women's champion, which was the top honor back then that a diva could hold in her career. She only held the women's championship, I believe, once or twice in her career, but her reign was a reign that was remembered by wrestling fans and is still touched on in this day and age of wrestling. And I think it's great that people remember Candice Michelle and her contributions, because she really took the Divas division to unprecedented heights, along with all the former talents that we have seen kind of come and go in the WWE. It really depresses me when you compare the Divas division, what it is today, to what it was probably 5 or 6 years ago, because you had so many marketable talents that are no longer with the WWE. People like Eve, Kelly, the Bella Twins from their initial release. The biggest thing that has happened for the WWE Divas division is the re-signing of the Bella Twins, because along with a lot of unpredictability for both of their characters, they bring back with them a lot of experience that they can kind of tutelage with the new talent initiative divas to help improve their skills. It's beyond me why the Bella Twins are not on the new NXT like they were for NXT Season 3. Maybe because the Bella Twins, were working better with women and helping the rookies for the Divas division more so than they would for a male talent, kind of like Lay Cool, were benefiting Caval, but that ultimately led to Caval's demise in the WWE and his release. So I guess WWE applied the same logic to the Bella Twins and said there would really be no point of you serving as pros on the all-new NXT, but they are that good. The Bella Twins can virtually do anything they set their minds to. Obviously, they were brought back with the initial purpose of being a part of the reality series Total Diva this summer on E, which drops this July, but I think that they can also bring a lot of unpredictability and a lot of credibility back to the Divas division, which we have lost over at least 5 to 6 years with so many talents kind of coming and going. We have lost Stacy Keibler, Tori Wilson, Trish Stratus in 2006 after a remarkable run and having her final match in her hometown of Toronto as women's champion, retiring on top. You couldn't have asked for a better career accolade or accomplishment. We also have seen the releases of Melina, Maurice, two of the most marketable talents that you could have ever distributed in the Divas division. I mean, so many names have kind of come and gone, and it's really left me in a state of depression. Without question, ladies and gentlemen, we are faced with a situation where the Divas division has been backed into a proverbial inescapable corner. They have been backed into a precarious position. You can look at it in a number of different ways, and I think the only way you can get it out of this rut, this precarious position, as I referred to it to here on the show, and I've referred to it to as that many times in past video archives on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/JonathanClarke22, is either re-sign former talents of the WWE Divas division, or you either open the door for Divas from NXT to cross over from the all-new NXT on WWE.com to Raw and SmackDown, because that will ultimately lead the WWE Divas division down a more prominent road. This match between AJ and Caitlyn, my prediction is AJ to come away with the Divas Championship, but what is your prediction? Because your opinion is what it all comes down to. You can share it with me on Facebook by joining the conversation at facebook.com/HEW Entertainment. Our really redesigned new Facebook page allows you to be more interactive than ever before with RSS news feeds, comments, and ways to share our links in a way that you have never been able to before. Check out the newly redesigned Facebook page of HEW Entertainment, where we are inviting you to subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter at JonathanClarke1, where you'll find a lot of tweets pertaining to AJ versus Caitlyn, and you can watch me on YouTube, where you'll find hundreds of video archives from the audio archives of the radio form of the official website of HEW Entertainment, youtube.com/JonathanClarke22. Follow our video blogs and also subscribe to them on the brand new YouTube 1 channel of HEW Entertainment. I venture to say we're going to have a variety of opinions when it comes to this Divas match. This is one of the best Divas matches on paper, and hopefully it'll live up to a lot of wrestling fans' expectations, especially fans of women's wrestling. One thing that I will never deny as a radio show host from now until the time that I die, whenever that may be, and the Lord decides to take my soul, is the fact that I am a wrestling fan of the Divas division. I have always been an avid follower of women's wrestling ever since I could remember, ever since Sable was the women's champion for the first time in November of 1998 really is when I started following women's wrestling diligently. I had paid attention to it on and off again in the early 90s because there really wasn't marketable talents back then. I mean, Alundra Blaze and Asha Kong were great marketable talents, but they didn't really appeal to me as much as some of the newer divas did halfway through the 90s and, of course, in the early thousands when the Divas division became about beauty, glamour, and power. And I started following it more so than I had in earlier years of watching wrestling. I've been watching wrestling for over a decade and a half, 15, 16 years, getting to the 20-year mark, and the women's division has considerably changed over the years, and AJ and Caitlyn are one of the biggest demonstrations I can use as how much the Divas division has metamorphosized and evolved into what it is today. Ultimately, it's headed in a better direction, but different wrestling fans choose to perceive women's wrestling in different ways, and more so the Divas division is perceived in a negative way than a positive way. And if you're a die-hard fan of wrestling, ultimately you choose women's wrestling in Ring of Honor or TNA Wrestling as your superior women's division and choice for women's wrestling. And I will agree with you to a certain extent. I mean, talents like Taylor Wilde and Lacey Von Erich are credible talents that can easily be marketed, but one of the biggest problems that the WWE have are they're too focused on having their divas involved in storylines that they try to portray as actual legitimate storylines that could possibly happen in real life. Just the other day I read a news item on our news feed actually of a WWE superstar and diva actually making plans to get married. They are engaged. To find out who that is, you can check out the official news feed of HEW Entertainment, found on many different sources throughout the internet. It's amazing seeing how much the Divas division has changed, but the WWE really has to put a lot of work ethic into getting the Divas division out of this precarious position. And I think Caitlyn versus AJ is more than just an attempt at doing it. It is a step in the right direction to doing it. And eventually, especially if we see a series of matches between AJ and Caitlyn, which will definitely be the climax of AJ getting the championship, or probably Caitlyn coming back to redeem her loss of the title to AJ eventually a few months down the road after losing it. There are so many paths that this storyline could head down, but ultimately it's going to send the Divas division in a very prominent direction, and it's going to propel the Divas division to unprecedented heights, and it will do an incredible amount of justice for the new reality series Total Diva, which is WWE's first ever attempt to have all of their divas featured in one 1-hour reality series each Sunday on the E! Network. For additional information, you can Google the official website of the E! Network for more information on their new summer lineup, which looks outstanding, and I think that this is all an effort just to promote that and to promote the Divas division in a more positive way than it's been promoted over the last 3 to 4 years, with how many releases we have been seeing in the WWE from both a male and a female perspective. Derek Bateman was one of the latest ones to be released, with more releases to be expected over the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned to our RSS News feed to find out who those releases are. Very disappointed over the release of Derek Bateman, because he was one of the funniest guys you could have on the NXT microphone. I think that he was one of the best promo cutters, and he was just entertaining because he could have been marketed as a marketable superstar for